Awesome. So welcome, Courtney. I'm so excited that you want to talk to me today. Just a couple of years ago, what we're going to talk about today would have been considered kind of woo, right? I think I told you I have a friend who always says that woo woo is only woo woo until it's what you do. And I think that, by now most riders have or horse owners either have heard about animal communication or have enlisted an animal communicator to help them, understand their animals better. But so I'm really kind of curious, if you don't mind, if we just jump right in to hear your story of how you became familiar with animal communication, like your first experience. Did you like, as a little kid, were you able to hear animals, or like, what's your story so that people kind of understand your background?
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So the very first time, well, let me back up. When I was a kid, like, growing up and, until I was an adult, I I was not like Dr. Doolittle. I was not like hearing voices in my head. Like it was not clear as that. But I would get a lot of just like nudges, right? Just I don't know where information came from, but
Mhm.
I just felt like, well, that's right. And and I thought everybody was like that. Like I didn't think that it was anything. I didn't think it was anything. I was just like, oh, my horse doesn't like to jump when I ride her. Like I would trail ride her. She doesn't like to jump. Okay. She never refused. She never did anything that would indicate she doesn't like it, but I just knew she did not like to jump. It was just things like that. I can't really explain it. Well, I know what it is now, but at the time
Mhm.
I couldn't explain it, right? And I just thought everybody was like that. So when I was a teenager, when I first learned about animal communication, I went to Equine Fair, which is in Columbus, Ohio. It's a
Mhm.
big horse symposium, and they had an animal communicator there presenting, just telling about it, and she did a demonstration, and I was just like, "What? What is this?" I was like totally blown away. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But then my first thought was, oh, that would be so cool if I could do that. And then my second thought was, I can't do that. Like, I just, I don't have that ability. And so I totally dismissed it. I put it out of my mind. Okay, I can't do it. Put it out of my mind. And I moved on. But I would still get those nudges that I talked about that I just. And when I was probably like in my early 20s, I was in the barn and my mom she came down, we were talking, and my one cat, Melvin, you know how like some cats or even just some animals in general, they always want your attention. So if somebody comes to talk to you, they try to do everything that they can do to get your attention. So, you pet them. He was that cat. So my mom's talking to me and I had the strongest urge that Melvin was trying to get my attention. We're standing up. He's at my feet, right? And I looked down at him. His eyes, his pupils were just blown, right? And again, I did not hear anything. It was just I just knew. And it's hard to explain if you've never had that happen, but I just knew he wanted to jump up on my shoulder. Now, and so I looked down and I smiled and I said, okay. And then boom, he jumped up on my shoulder. And my mom was like, what the hell is that cat doing? And I said, well, he asked. And she's like, what do you mean he asked? I said, don't worry about it, mom. I'm like, it's okay. She was just like, whatever. But so that was my first like real like experience that I had, that it was just like, whoa, what is this? It really got my attention. And
Mhm.
um and so from there, I I used to train horses. I don't train anymore now, but I used to train horses. And I had a client's horse that she was previously abused by another trainer.
Mhm.
And so we had a lot of demons to get over, I'm sure, as you could imagine. And she was doing really good. Like I basically started her all over again. Like she didn't know anything. And she was doing really good on the ground. And then I started riding her. She was fine. Well, when I was cantering her under saddle, it was a rodeo. I mean, like out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I'm thinking back to all the groundwork I did, like all the prep work I did. And I was like, I don't think there's any holes. So we would go back and we would, try to find where there was a hole, and I wasn't finding one. And and I'm trying this, I'm trying that, and like nothing was working. And I did not get bucked off, but I am not that rider that can stay on anything. And I was like, Courtney, you're gonna get hurt. Like this is not a good situation, and you need help. And so I was like, okay, I'm thinking like who could I reach out to? I Out of the blue, animal communicator popped in my mind. Now, mind you, I have not thought about an animal communicator since like when I was 15 years old at Equine Fair, which was like, I don't know, 15 years before that. I don't remember how old I was, but it was a long time ago. Had not thought about that forever. And it just like popped in my mind. And it felt so right. It felt like, yes, I need to do this. Like, and I'm like, but who? Like, I don't know anybody. So to make a long story short, I Google searched somebody, and I was riding this horse the next day. So I was like, I need an appointment like right now. And so I found somebody, and I was just like, oh, please don't let me like waste my money, or you know what I mean? And she was amazing. Like I didn't know this horse like super well because she wasn't my horse, but I did know some stuff about her. And she was able to tell me things about her. And I didn't disclose any information ahead of time. And so the root of the problem of her bucking, and I feel so stupid to say this because I should have thought of this. So she was in a Western saddle, and she had the latigo straps that hang on the back of the saddle. And now they weren't hurting her, but they were touching her. They were just kind of dangling as as she was moving. And that was causing her PTSD, which was causing her to buck, because the trainer who abused her, he had split reins. He'd pick up his rein and he'd like whip her. And that's where he was hitting her. And that's where those straps were touching. So we tied them up. She stopped bucking. I mean, it was just like, oh my God. Like, first off, why didn't I think of that? But secondly, like, wow, and so that's kind of like where I started. So the lady that I spoke with, she's retired now, but her name is Cindy Smith. She lives in Asheville, North Carolina. She used to do workshops, and several times I, drove from Pennsylvania down to North Carolina, and I did her workshops. And she kind of took me under her wing a little bit because she knew that I wanted to continue on. So, more than just for myself. So she kind of helped give me more training and kind of get me started. And we sort of went from there. Yeah.
That's so cool. What a powerful story, right? In a lot of different ways. But then also, so then you kind of figured at that point, okay, this is really powerful. And then did you remember that, yeah, I have those feelings? And like if you wanted to become an animal communicator, it's not like there's a school for that necessarily, right? Like I know that you now teach courses and teach people how to do that, but so kind of, you said she took you under her wing. Did you do like a formal internship, or did you, just kind of, as you started learning, that all of a sudden like your abilities come alive? Or
So what she did was she spent like more one-on-one time with me, because when I went down for the workshops, it was with a group of other people.
Okay.
And so like after the workshop, she just kind of worked with me a little bit more, gave me some more insider tips and tricks and things like that. But what I liked was that she kind of like didn't spoon feed me. She gave me breadcrumbs, and I had to sort of figure it out for myself. But I like that, you know what I mean? But when she felt like I was, at a good point, she started to give me some clients. Now, I mean, I was super cheap back then because, I was brand new, right? And I mean, I had probably about a year, 2 years experience before I took clients. I don't want people to think I took clients right away. I did practice for 2 years, but no, but she did kind of like start to flow some people my way, and so that definitely got me started there. But then after, like, in addition to Cindy, I took a couple of courses from a lady named Jenny Helton Voss. She's up in Michigan. I took some, I didn't go to Michigan. We did like some like video chat. And so she was really good. And then I'm like around the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. And I took a couple, like not animal communication courses, but just regular psychic development classes from some various people up here. And then most recently, I took a psychic development, like a strengthening psychic development from Janice Assini. I didn't think how to say her last name. Sorry, Janissini, and she's associated with Lilydale. I don't know if you or your viewers know Lilydale, New York. It's like a spiritual community. It's really cute. It's in Western New York, but she's like associated professional with them. So it's pretty cool. She's a really cool lady. But yeah. So I'm a firm believer that you definitely want to find a good teacher that you really like jive with, but it's also good to kind of branch out and get like other classes, other courses, because you can learn things from everyone. So
Like in everything. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
That makes a
Yeah.
lot. So then, just so that I kind of get the timeline, like you must have at some point in time decided I'm doing this full time because that's what you do now, full time, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
Yep. Yep. So after my first workshop with Cindy, like it was a 1 day workshop. When I left there, I was like, this is going to be my job. It's not my job right now. I got a lot of work to do, but this is going to be my job. Like I knew it right away. And
Wow.
and I knew it was right because like my intuition was it just felt right. I'm sure you've had experiences where there was no question about your decision. You were doing it and that was right. And it made me feel just so good. Like I knew that I was put on this, like I'm following my life path. This is where I need to be. So it was just crazy. Cause like once I took her course and when I took her course, I don't want people to think again that it was like Dr. Doolittle, and I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a light bulb came on and like the gates of heaven opened up and now I could talk to animals. It was not like that. But I did have like a lot of good progress in her class that it was like, oh, wow, I can do this. I just need to put some blood, sweat, and tears in it, but I can do it. Um, yeah.
That's very cool because I think there's maybe a little bit of a, I don't know if you want to call it a misconception, but I think in a way people think that you either born with this gift or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really interesting to hear that, you had this intuition and this inclination and you knew that you had this ability, but that you then took the steps to really develop that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there are like some people that are, and not, this isn't just for animal communication. This is just for the intuitive world in general, right? People that want to speak to those who've passed on, just anything in the intuitive world. Some people are very open, which means that it's so easy for them to get whatever information they want. Some people are a little too open and then need to learn how to close themselves and kind of protect themselves, right? I feel like I am more of an average Joe. Clearly, obviously I do have the abilities to do it, but I had to work really hard at opening myself up, right? So and it gets easier, right? I can do it way easier now than I did 8 years ago. But so yeah, I'm not that kid when I was little that I saw dead people. I did not have any like experiences like that. I didn't. Like I said, I was like an average Joe. I just got these nudges and I just went with it.
That's awesome. We probably all have those and don't always
Yes.
them, right? Or don't know where they come. So that kind of leads me to like, people always ask like, okay, well, like, how does it work? Is it that you see things or that you hear things or, like I've heard people say that animals see, think in pictures or like,
Mhm.
how is it different for different people? Is everyone the same? How do you experience it? I gather you get these like intuitions and nudges, but it must go a little further than that.
Yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, you're going to pay attention to your body's five senses: hear, smell, taste, touch, see. I think I named them all. You know what I'm talking about. um, you're going to, and the information is going to come in a little bit differently, right? Because even if you are with the animal, it still could be a little bit different. Meaning, if I'm asking an animal, hey, how do you feel? Like, do you have any pain in your body? Do you feel sick? Anything like that? So my sense of feel is,
Mhm.
a lot of times I will feel their symptoms in my body, right? So that's my sense of feel. I was talking to this dog. It wasn't with me. I was home. He was at his house, and I kept smelling wood, like a wood burner. Well, I don't have a wood burner in my house, but the owner confirmed he has a wood burner. So that's my
Mm.
sense of smell. So, like I said, it's the same senses. It can come in a little bit different. So you have to be very aware, like you have to be very open. You have to, like, before I speak with an animal, I need to assess what's how my body's feeling, like what's mine, so I know what's theirs. For example, if
Oh.
my left knee was hurting, and then I talk to the animal, hey, how you feeling? And my left knee hurts. It's probably me. It's probably not them, right? So you need to kind of assess yourself first, so you
Mhm.
know what's yours and then what's theirs. So for me, like personally, and I'm like, with a lot of people are very, it's called claircognizant, where your sense of sight, that's probably one of the biggest uh methods that people use. You see things. Now, I don't see things with my eyeball. I see things in my mind.
Okay.
Right? And clairaudience, that is your sense of hearing. Okay, so a funny little story about hearing. I thought that you always would hear what, like the voice of the animal, like an external voice. I always
Mhm.
thought that, like, whatever I was talking to, I would hear their voice. And you absolutely can, but I wasn't hearing it. And so then I kept hearing like my voice, and I just was pushing my voice down. I was like, be quiet. Like, I'm trying to hear them. Just be quiet, right? And I was frustrated because I was like, why can't I hear? And then, like, I took a psychic development class, and then I learned in there that, well, yeah, you can hear their external voice, but you also have to pay attention to your voice, your inner voice, because it's telling you information. And I was like, really? Like, I'm supposed to trust that? And they're like, yeah. So
Mm.
then I started focusing on my inner voice, and it was so quiet I couldn't hear it. And I had to bring up the volume because I pushed it down. And so now I can hear. So so that's just a little interesting tidbit. But yeah, but I do my sense of sight, my hearing. I mean, I use all my clairs. My other big one is my it being like my claircognizant, which is basically your intuition. How, remember I said I get the nudges and I don't know where the information comes from? That is like kind of like your intuition coming to you. It's like you don't know how or why or where, you just know. So that's like a really big one for me. Um, yeah, did I answer that question? I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
that's very cool and interesting. So that kind of opens up the question, like I think sometimes people think it's weird if you can um, communicate with an animal that you haven't even ever seen or that's not in the same room, like nowadays we do
Mhm.
things on the phone and Zoom and things like that. Like I think that's um even a harder concept kind of to wrap your head around that you could,
Yeah.
sit up there in Pennsylvania and maybe talk to an animal in Florida,
Yep, yep.
right?
So basically, what that is telepathy. The most simplest definition I can give you of telepathy is you're going to send thoughts, images, emotions, any kind of information over a distance. That's all it is. You're intuitively just sending information over a distance. It does not matter how far away it is. I have a friend in Australia. I can talk to her animals just as easy as I could talk to, like, if I had like my dog sitting next to me. So how does that work? How everything is tied
How
with
does that
energy.
work?
Right, right. That's the yeah. So without getting like way too deep in the weeds, because I even get confused with the weeds, but everything is made of energy, right? You and I are the chairs that we're sitting on, it's in the air, like energy is everywhere. Now, I'm sure you're probably familiar with the Big Bang Theory in in the space, right?
Mhm.
It's a good TV show too.
Yep.
So as you all probably know, at one time, matter was all together, and therefore it was energetically tied, right? And then when the Big Bang happened and everything exploded and it made the universe, even though it was physically apart, it never severed the energetic ties. It will always be energetically tied because at one point it was together. So even though
Mm.
it's separated out, it doesn't matter. So that's how you have those energetic ties. So that's why we can say everything is tied together. Energy is, it's like, think of like tree roots, right? It's everywhere. So that's how we're able to use the telepathy, which is, intuitively sending, information over a distance. That's like the high level of what I can
Mhm.
explain, and even for me to understand, to be honest with you, because it's just sometimes this stuff is just mind blowing. It's just like, what?
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's even mind blowing to you because I'm sure
Yeah.
lots of people listening right now are thinking, "Whoa,
Yeah.
is that
But
real?"
but that's kind of like, that's sort of like where I stop it, is like, without getting too much in the weeds, without it being too confusing. But oh, to answer the other part of your question, animals do see in pictures.
Okay.
We see in pictures. I just think a lot of people don't realize it. So for example, if you're reading a book, right, a really good novel, it plays out like a movie in your mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if you're talking or if you're listening, if I tell everyone I have a fluffy orange cat and he has, four white socks on his leg and a little white face, as I was describing my cat to you, you automatically were thinking of what he looked like. You can't turn that feature off. It's automatic. Animals also have that automatic feature. So using telepathy, which is, sending that intuitive information from, point A to point B, we are sending those pictures, or it's the emotions, or whatever it is, right? Whatever information you want to send, we're sending it to them. So that's how they're able to, that's why people say, oh, they can see pictures. That's how they're seeing pictures. We can see it too. It's just we're not paying attention. The thing you have to be careful with, uh, when you're communicating with your animal, is it's really best to use positive language when you speak with them and not negative. So like I said, they see in pictures. There is no picture that describes the word not, N-O-T.
That's a good one. Yes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know this from like positive thinking and manifestation and like the
Mm-hmm.
universe is an inclusive universe. There is no no, like there's no
Mm-hmm.
not, right? Yeah,
Right,
that makes a lot of
right.
sense. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So therefore, there's no pictures for the words don't, couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't. So what I always explain to my clients is, if you had a dog that jumps on everyone when he comes in the door, a
Mhm.
very common phrase people tell their dog is don't jump. Well, when I say the words don't jump, what are you thinking of? You're actually thinking of a dog jumping, because there's no picture for the word no. So you're sending a mixed message. You're telling them don't jump, but you're sending them a picture of jump. So
Mm.
um, instead, you want to use the positive language and, say something like stay calm and keep four on the floor, or stay calm and sit down, or whatever, right?
Mhm.
You want to use that positive language. So you're using telepathy, even if you're like I said, in the same room with your dog or your horse or wherever, and you're physically talking out loud and they can hear you, you're still sending those pictures. You can't turn that off. So just make sure you're sending the right pictures.
So you're kind of blowing my mind right now because I mean, I kind of knew this, but I'm really like getting this super sense that we are doing this, whatever you do, all the time in a way with
Mm-hmm.
everyone that we meet, whether it's animals or people.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It's just, again, like most people just don't pay attention to. I wasn't paying attention to until I learned about all this stuff. So
Wow, that's really mind blowing. So, like, I know that probably you have a lot of interesting stories, and since you were just telling us how we think in pictures, do you have some, maybe encounters, stories that really kind of blew your mind or surprised you or like changed your thinking around something? I'm sure you've communicated with, a lot of different animals. Or I guess I should ask you, and I'm sorry I didn't ask you this earlier. Do you like specialize in horses or do you also communicate with other animals?
I do them all.
Okay.
Yeah, I do them all. I love all of them.
Awesome. And just
Yeah.
because I'm kind of interested, like, are they different in the way that they communicate? Like horses versus cats versus dogs, or
I mean, I feel like the horses are more sensitive. They're more they really look at you. It's very cliche to say, oh, a horse can really look in your soul or
Mhm.
however that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah, yeah.
But it really is true. Like they really, really assess you and you can't hide anything from a horse. So that's really cool about them. But as far as like the other animals, it for me, it truly depends on their personality. I have some that like most animals are super excited to speak with me.
Mhm.
But you will have some that are a little bit reluctant. For example, picture the stereotypical house cat that when company comes over, it hides the whole time and you never see it, right? How that animal reacts, like when strangers come to their house, that's how they're going to react when I come knocking on their door in their head.
Mm.
So if I get that house cat, um, I can feel their presence. Like I know I'm connected to them, but they're hiding from me, right? So what
Wow.
I'll do is like my icebreaker is I'll kind of introduce myself and let them know, hey, your mom wanted me to talk to you about this, whatever. And then I'll just start talking about my own animals. I have a cat and blah, blah, I'll just, whatever. I'll just start talking about my own animals and I'll be like, yeah, and they do this. Do you like that? And so I'll start kind of doing it like that. And then eventually the cat will be like, oh yeah, I like to do that too. So that's like my number one icebreaker is, I've also talked to one dog I really remember in particular. He was very aggressive to strangers. Like he would be that dog that would attack you if you went on his property.
Mhm.
And I felt that when I connected with him. Obviously, I knew I was safe. I wasn't going to get bit, but I felt that energy when I connected with him.
Mm.
So I always tell people it's however they would react. Like if I were there in person, that's how they react, when I'm in their head.
Wow. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but that must be sometimes a little bit challenging for you because people ask you to connect with them. And if the animal is a little standoffish, basically what you're saying, you use psychology to get to them.
Yes. Yeah, it can be because it's I'll spend I mean usually I don't spend too long on getting them to either calm down or
Mhm.
get confident or whatever. It's just usually it doesn't take too long. My I talked to I was when I was practicing years ago, it was my coworker. She had two cats. One cat was an extrovert, one cat was an extreme introvert. He was that cat that would hide, and he wanted nothing to do with me. So I talked to her friendly cat first, talked to her, and then I went back to him. He still didn't want to talk to me. I was like, okay. So then I tried, I was practicing, right? I was just testing it out. I was like, so I went back to the friendly cat and I was like, hey, what if you answer his questions? Because I knew where this was going to go. So
That's cute.
she starts answering it in her opinion. And then he gets all like, hey, that's not true. And so he comes out and he's like,
Right.
her name was Ellie and he was Wally. And he was like, Ellie, get out of the way. He's like, I'm just gonna talk now. You're messing this all up. Okay, let me tell you about this. It was so
That's
funny.
awesome. I always say that animals totally have a sense of humor, but of course they all have their own different sense of humor,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And like
So do
some
you have any?
animals,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and they're a lot like people where even if I have like a friendly animal who's fine with connecting with me, sometimes you get them that only like to do one word answers. Just some people are like that, right? They just don't really elaborate. And it's just like, come on, give me a little bit more. So, and then you have some chatterboxes. So
That is so cool. So do you have any like particular stories of an animal that really like blew your mind, or where maybe you talking to the animal really like changed something in their life? Those
yeah,
type of stories.
yeah. So I have a couple. I have a funny one that I spoke with a dog who passed over, and his owners were like, oh, like, well, like, what do you do up in heaven? Like, what's your favorite thing to do? And we were dying because he likes to look in people's windows. He's a creeper. And
Great.
we were like, why? And he was like, I just want to see what they're doing. But he didn't want to invade their privacy and like in spirit go in their house. So he was just looking from the windows. And his owners that were dying, they're like, I could totally see him doing that. Like, but I had so I had this horse. She's a very well trained, she's a very good girl. She's a very well trained horse. She's just a lot to ride. At times she's like riding a stick of dynamite, right? Like she tries to hold it together. She tries to be a good girl, but you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's just yeah. And she thought that that was okay because everyone who rode her, they were very good riders. Like they could handle that. She didn't have any novices ride her. And so she was just like, well, what's the big deal? Like they don't come off of me. Like I'm not trying to hurt them. So I had to explain to her, like, no, you're still putting everyone in danger. And we had to have that big talk. Her other thing was that she didn't want to get in the trailer. She was just really, really hard to load. And like she's a hunter jumper, right? They wanted to, every weekend take her places and stuff, and it would be hours to get her on, and then when we're at the show it was hours to get her back home. It was this big thing. So luckily, and this isn't, I have some animals that like that change their behavior like really quick. Like sometimes it's instant, sometimes it's within a few days. They're not all like that. But this one, she did turn around pretty quick. And so it was really nice to hear that I got through to her, that she stopped being a stick of dynamite, and she just let it all out when they were lunging her. Yeah, get it out on the lunge line, don't right. And her trailer loading, that didn't happen overnight, but within a couple weeks, she went from being horrible to them not having to worry about her. So that was actually pretty good. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so her owners were very, very happy with all that. And then I have another cool story. There was a lady, she was having a lot of health problems. She had a little dog, and she was in the hospital. So her friends were taking care of her dog, and they all thought like she was starting to get better. So they thought she was going to come home soon. Well, I never asked like exactly what was wrong with her, but she took a turn for the worse, and then she was on hospice, and they said it was going to happen soon. Like it happened very fast, and it was very sudden. And so naturally she was very concerned about her dog, because the people who were taking care of it, they couldn't keep him. They had other dogs and they couldn't keep him. So they were trying to find him a new home. So, this poor lady, I mean, everything she was going through, and then she had the stress of that. So they brought her dog to visit her, pretty much just say goodbye to her. And he knew everything that was going on. Like I said, I don't know what was wrong with her, but when I talked to him, he told me every single symptom that he picked up on her. Yeah, I was like, wow. But his message to her was, hey mom, like you're at the end of your journey here, like on earth. He's like, I know where you're going. I want you to know that I will be fine. Like
I have goosebumps right now. That's wild.
yeah, he was such a cool dog, but he was really, really just trying to reassure her that like, just, be at peace with all of this. Like, I'm going to be okay. He said, I am very well mannered. I'm very adaptable. like people love me. And it's the truth. Like he was such a cute, like he was a really nice little dog, you know, and he didn't have anything wrong, you know, temperament or anything. And so he knew this, and that gave her a lot of peace. So she was, you know, was then able to, you know, go out more peacefully than, you know, than when she was going in. And he did. He ended up finding a really good home, and he adjusted like immediately. But that was just really nice that he knew, and he was just like, Mom, listen, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. You just got to go on this journey. I'll see you later. Yeah.
That's also, I think, mind-blowing, and something that maybe even when we love horses, we don't appreciate enough, or animals in,
Mm-hmm.
general, how kind they are, like
Mm-hmm.
actively kind, not just, like that always blows my mind about animals.
Oh
Wow,
yeah.
those are some cool stories to share. So, like you kind of said earlier, like all animals always like see what we're thinking, basically read our thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you had to like say to horse people, riders, whatever, like what can we do to improve like our relationship? And I think you and I talked about this one time, and like I always talk to my animals as if they were people, and I think they understand
Uh-huh.
everything I say. But like, how would you like? What do you say to your clients, or what would you say to people? Um, in that way, I gather I'm gonna take the word no and not and shouldn't out of my vocabulary for sure. But like, what do you usually recommend? Or
Yeah. So basically it's like you said, talking to them. Just as if you're talking to a person, right? Tell them about anything and everything you want. They do not spill your secrets. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh my God, you're gonna talk to my horse, and I don't know what he's gonna say." And I'm like, "Listen, they
awesome.
know what's private and what's not."
That's
um,
good.
yeah, but just talking to them, like, okay, they already know what's going on in your life because you're so connected with them. But the fact that you would talk to them and you would open yourself up, that is going to make them say, "Oh my gosh, she's talking to me about this. Like, I feel so honored." Like, you know what I mean? It would just make them feel, you know, more closer to you. But it also will. It, Talking to them also helps them not have any surprises. So, for example, if you were gonna, you know, go to the barn and go to a horse show, right? They probably already knew that they were going to go to a horse show because, you know, you're getting them ready, you're doing everything you got to do to get to, you know, packing up and stuff. But they might not know how long they're going to be gone for. Is it going to be an overnight? Is it going to be a one day? Like, what classes am I going to do? You know, just all those details, right? So, you know, again, if you just spell it all out for them, then that'll just, because nobody likes surprises, right? Nobody likes surprises. And I've had a lot of horses tell me that, not a lot, I'm not going to say a lot, but I've had some horses tell me that they really don't like spending the night at a horse show, no matter where it is. They want to be home in their own bed.
I can empathize with that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Mhm.
Yeah. And some of them were like, can't we just like come home and then like go back to the show like the next day? I guess it depends on how far the show is,
I
but
guess, yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
so. I think maybe this would be a good place to kind of plug your courses, right?
Okay.
So, or share, I should say, because probably by now everybody's thinking, "Oh my gosh, I want to learn how to do this." So, do you want to talk a little bit about like what kind of classes do you have? Like, do you have different like introduction and then a little deeper, and also maybe what inspired you to want to teach others to do this?
Yeah, sure. So I have I have three classes right now on my website. I didn't update it. It says two, but I'm actually going to break the two up into three because they're pretty long. Because just to help for everyone else's schedules, because sometimes it's hard for people to schedule because it's a long period of time. But basically, the first class is going to be all about psychic development, and it's think of the analogy. You have to learn how to ride the horse before you can jump the horse.
Yeah.
So Now it's going to be high level psychic development because you can get in the weeds hardcore over like, you know, all the different topics. But
Sure.
it the psychic development, you don't have to know it to do like to talk to animals, but it certainly helps because if you're going to get, you know, have these experiences, you're going to have questions about this, about that. So why not, you know, get a foundation, right? And then build on that foundation. So
Mhm.
the
That makes
first
sense.
class was that,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's, you know, kind of like the same journey that you went through from
Mhm.
maybe having some intuition, but then really, you know, fostering that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so my first class is a lot about the psychic development. And then we do, like, I do teach you how to correctly communicate with animals. So that's the first class. And you'll practice on my animals, right? Just because mine are used to it. Mine like to be the guinea pigs.
That's awesome.
They have a lot to say. And then the second and the third class are going to be different topics of animal communication. So depending on like if we're doing one-on-one, you'll still have my animals to practice on. If I'm with a group, then
Hmm.
excuse me, everyone will practice on each other's. It just depends on, you know, what kind of size class I have. But there'll be topics on health and wellness, like how to pick up like health issues like pain and all that stuff,
Cool.
behavioral issues, helping animals adjust to a new home, helping foster animals adjust from, you know, going from house to house to house, that kind of thing. We talk about end of life. We talk about, you know, like, you know, when they're up in heaven. I go over lost pet tracking.
Wow, that's
Maybe
very
something
cool.
else, but yeah, but that's over two different classes. So it's like the main subjects of like animal communication. So it's pretty cool with a lot of practicing in between.
So I'm sure everybody's thinking like, can anybody learn how to do this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel it's kind of use the analogy of like basketball. Everybody can play basketball. It just not everyone's going to be Michael Jordan. I'm not Michael Jordan with the animal
Right,
communication
right,
world.
right.
I can tell you right that. But you know, everyone's going to have
Got it.
different levels at it. But yes, everyone can do this. It just really comes down to how much are you going to open yourself up? How much are you going to lower your mental blocks down and believe in yourself? That's like the biggest thing. If you have the confidence, and I had to learn how to get my confidence up. That's a whole nother subject right there. But you got to get those mental blocks down and raise up your confidence so that you can get the information. But no, everyone can do it at least to some degree. But like I said before, you're not going to walk out being like Dr. Doolittle. It takes a lot of practice. It's just like learning a language, like a foreign language. You know, you're not going to take like a class or two on French and then all of a sudden you can speak French. Like it
Right,
just,
right, right.
yeah.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I think that's really interesting and kind of neat to talk about because I do think that there's like a belief in a way, like we said earlier, that like you either are born that way and you know it comes to you, but I think it's very cool that you can, you know, develop these skills. And
Mm-hmm.
then something that you said in there reminded me that I asked people what they wanted to learn about, and I think I mentioned this earlier. I had quite a few riders or horse people, I should say, ask me about grief. Like, do horses grieve?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do they grieve? Do they grieve differently? And you already kind of shared one very cool story about that, but just so that
Mm-hmm.
we cover that as well. Do horses like grieve their friends when they die?
Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah, yeah. 2 years ago, my one mare, Brandy, she was 41 when we put her down. I called her
What?
my I called her my freak of nature.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So we, you know, had to put her down. Everything was fine with that. And my horse I have now, Rosie, now they were together for a long time. And Rosie, she didn't take it real great. I mean, she was okay at first, but 2 months after we put Brandy down, I took Rosie to a horse show. And now this horse, she's 26 now. She was 24 at the time. So, you know, she was older. This horse has been there, done that. Like she's been to a million horse shows, right? When I took her to this horse show, she was a monster. She was such a brat. Like, and this was not my horse, like that it was so uncharacteristic of her. And at first I was like, what is going on? Like, who is this horse? And then I was like, oh, this is the first time Rosie left the farm since Brandy passed. And I think it's just all coming out. Unfortunately, it came out in a bad way, and we just went home. But yeah, they definitely react like that. I had a client's dog who she was very attached to her husband. My client's dog was definitely her husband's dog. He ended up passing away in her living room in front of the dog. He had a heart attack right in front of her dog. Yeah. And this dog, she took it so bad. Like she wouldn't eat. She had horrible separation anxiety. I mean, it just caused so many behavioral issues. And it took her a while. And when I say a while, it took her over a year to get over this. I mean, that's an extreme case. You usually don't, I mean, that's not normal, but yeah, she needed a lot of help.
Wow. So do you sometimes then get called to kind of help the other animal grieve, or
Mhm.
um and can
Yeah,
you then console them, or like, I mean, spirit lives on, so do they then still connect also with the, you know,
they do. They do. Because the passed over animal will come back and visit their people and their animals and all that. They will, and the living animal will sense them in some way. So whenever I get have a consultation like that, I will bring in both animals. The one that's passed, the one that's living, and so we're the owner's there, so we're all just sort of here, and we just talk about stuff. And I always ask the living animal, well, what can we do to try to help you? And I mean, typically the answer, and this would be the answer for people too, is just be around me, just make me feel loved and comforted. Sometimes they don't want their person to get rid of or box up the for
Mm,
example, the bed of the dog that passed. They still want their stuff there. It's just things
yeah, yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. Like, that's a really wonderful thing that you can help, the animals that are still alive with
Mm-hmm.
to handle that. Wow, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a Yeah. So that kind of makes me think about you mentioned to me when we talked that you have a really strong religious background, and I think that, and this is probably my misconception, but that sometimes people think that animal voodoo, spirituality, communication maybe clashes with traditional religious beliefs. So you have a very unique insight into that. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm actually Catholic, and I'm a practicing Catholic.
Nice.
People will be like, what? Yeah. But I mean, I look at it very simply that God put animals on this earth, not only for food and, for work and things like that, but just because we love them, and then, and we enjoy being around them. God also gave us all gifts. And the fact that not only myself, but many, many, many other people, even just people who don't realize that they're doing it, you talk to your animals, you might not realize that you're really truly doing this. Maybe you do now. But we are helping, in any way that we can. We try to help the animals, we try to help the owners, whatever the situation is. We're doing good things. We want the best of intentions. We just want everyone to be healthy and happy and all that stuff. We're basically like light workers, right? We're just spreading good out there. I
Spreading
really,
good. I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
yeah, thank you. And I strongly feel that yes, oh, there's absolutely evil out there. Absolutely. But I don't think that evil can trick us and do good things, because I don't think evil is capable of doing good things. For
Mm,
example, a lot of people would say, oh, you talked to that horse and the behavior changed in a good way, but the devil was probably still behind that. Well, how could the devil be behind that when something very good and positive happened, because he's not, I don't believe he's capable of doing good things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just can't. He's evil, right? That's kind of how I look at it. And but every time I connect with an animal, I always protect myself and the animal and like the owner. Now, I've never ever had a bad experience, as far as like something attaching to me or anything like. I've never had that, but I always ask for protection. I always ask for guidance, like, like I call them my team, and just like I said, because I'm Catholic, God's at the top, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's what I do. I feel that my relationship and my beliefs have only strengthened since I've done this. I mean, I've been a practicing Catholic my whole life, but once I started doing this, and it just really opened my eyes up, like, wow, like it just made it stronger. And so I really, really like lean on him even more than I ever did before. And just so, yeah.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you, like, as our last question, how do you, I mean, when we learn things, we change, and as we go through life, obviously we change, but like, sometimes we have, and I would say that this is like your passion, your purpose, your vocation. How do you feel that it's changed or in which significant way, I guess I should say, has it changed like you as a person?
I now am aware that there's so much more out there than what I thought 20 years ago. um, that not only that, like, this is a thing that we can talk to animals, but just I'm still discovering things. Like, I still don't even know, but it just really opened my eyes that there is bigger stuff going on than just us where we are right now. Bigger stuff that at least I can't even comprehend right now. So it's really exciting, because I'm still, like I said, discovering it, but it's exciting because it's that discovery phase. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, okay, like, well, like, what's next, and what am I going to learn now? And so it really just opened my eyes that, okay, it's not just the things that we can like physically see with our eyes and hear with our ears. There's a whole nother thing out there.
That's very cool. You have a true growth mindset, I would say.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to say? Like, you know, if you could tell horse people or animal owners or whatever, one thing about being with their animals that maybe you think people don't know enough about, or something that we tend to do as people that maybe animals think is ridiculous or whatever. Is there
Uh-huh.
one thing that you always think, oh my gosh, I wish people knew this?
Honestly, I mean, everything that we talked about, I would say, but
Okay.
don't.
Well, that's good.
But if you're like a person like me or like you that get those nudges of information, go with them, right?
Mm.
That is the seed that has been planted, that you need to follow, right? You need to follow through with it. Just one quick example. I just bought a house, and I just moved my horse here last week. Like, we got our property ready to move my horse here. And she doesn't like the grass. Like, there's
Oh,
grass out there. I don't know what her problem is. She's real
no,
picky.
that's not
And
good.
no, well, she's eating it now. Like, she's been here for a week. She's better now, but like the first couple of days. So her telling me that oh wait, that was where I wasn't gonna go with that. I have another story. Anyway, she's ripping the grass out by the roots. Where I was gonna go with this was, sorry. Um, so she's here now, and I change her I give her fresh water in the morning, I give her fresh water in the evening. And when it was the evening come, I was going to clean her stall first and then get her water, right? Well, I had the strongest urge that she wanted her fresh water now. And just because I've been doing this long enough, like, I listen to those nudges, right? And I'm just like, all right, I'm coming. Like, I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll get your water, even though she had water in her bucket. Oh no. So that would be my advice to people to pay attention. I think a lot of people just need to just be aware, just start paying attention to, these things, and go with them. And then once you start to do that, you will see that, oh, whatever it was that you were supposed to do, you will see how, like, you get the confirmation that, yeah, that was right. That's what they wanted. And then it'll become easier because you'll start paying attention more, and it'll just start to flow more. You just got to get that started.
Right, right. And then also, and I know that, we want to keep this not too long, but I'm kind of curious then because is it where once you start, like because I talk to my animals, I think that, like they talk back in a way, but, I'm sure that maybe not all animals are used to us doing that. Like, especially you're in the horse industry. Like sometimes we talk to horses as if they were a little stupid or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't always really like we talk at them maybe a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, and we don't really think that they understand. Um, so like then do horses kind of go, well, I'm just gonna hang back a little? And are they more willing to then kind of give you those nudges and initiate communication? Do you think once you do the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I do. It's almost like you're saying, if you, like, they'll start tuning you out if they feel that you're really not, like,
Yeah, do
hearing
they?
them.
Do they?
Yeah, they definitely can. They definitely can. Of course, depending on the horse. But if if you have a horse like that, and if he's been tuning you out, you can always start, like, right now. You can always, like, talk to your horse, right? Like we were saying, talk to them just like a person. Tell them, be like, hey, listen, my eyes got open to, like, bigger things, and I guess you can understand me. So
Yeah.
just, however you want to word it. But yeah, just explain what you want to do, and then just be like, listen, like, I would like you to, send me information, give me nudges, however you want to do it. Try to communicate with me, and I'm going to try really, really hard to pay attention and go with it.
That's
So
very cool.
yes, it can be done.
That's a really lovely message, I think, for us to end on. I am so appreciative. This has been so great, and I'm sure like people have learned things that just is blowing their mind. And hopefully you'll give me like your link to your
Mhm.
course, and we'll put that underneath the video and stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
Good. Awesome. Bye, Courtney.
Thank you.